Hello, critical thinkers. Hope all is well. So, we're here today to discuss the unsealing of the grand jury indictments. So, I've always felt that you have to be honest with people, you have to be direct, and you really can't sugarcoat things and what's happened. So, in my opinion, what happened today was very, very bad. It was disgusting, it was disgraceful. Um, it's pretty bad all around. So, what I'm going to do today is take you through what happened today from different vantage points. I'm going to take you through the actual indictments that came about. I'll let you know who the players are, what they were charged with, what their primary charges were, what their secondary charges were, and then we'll get into the bail. Okay, we'll talk about their bail, and then we'll talk about the next steps. So we have Tracy saying, "Yo, hi Tracy, how you doing?" We have Kevin saying it was a miscarriage of justice. Absolutely, what happened today was absolutely disgusting, deplorable, whatever words you want to use that mean disgusting and deplorable. That's what happened today. So, and I think one thing that's very important is that not only do you have to really hear and listen to what they're saying, but you really have to read between the lines. So later on, I'm going to be playing a portion of the press conference that William Fitzpatrick did after the indictments came about. And we are going to break down those statements. We are going to break down why the things that Fitzpatrick said was extremely inappropriate, extremely a major slap to the face in terms of justice. We'll take a look at what happened in the courtroom in terms of what occurred, and it's just absolutely disappointing. These are the things that lead to civil unrest. And now, I'm not advocating for violence. I'm not advocating for rioting. I'm advocating for justice. And what happened today is truly, as Kevin said, it was a travesty of justice. It absolutely was. Oh, we got Duty Ron here. Duty Ron is here. He said, "I'm very disappointed, but not surprised. What happened today was a miscarriage of justice." Absolutely. And Duty Ron did a stream. Duty Ron, I actually watched your stream while you were doing it, and it was great coverage. And everyone, just amazing, amazing what occurred, the level of disrespect and the treatment that these officers received. You or I would not get that level of treatment. We would not. Um, Tracy Cook said it's cold blooded. Absolutely, it's really cold blooded. I think the biggest cold bloodedness of all is William Fitzpatrick and his statements that will actually break down. I'm going to play his statements for you, and we'll go bit by bit. I think I found three things that I found very alarming in terms of what he said. Um, there was a question: where was Kessler? Where was Kessler? Um, I don't know, but one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a resource that I put together. So this is the first time sharing a Google sheet with you. So in order to help myself, I had to put everyone down on a spreadsheet because I'm a bit of a nerd that way. So let me go ahead and share this. Give me 1 second. Oh, we have another comment I'll go to very quickly. For Fitzpatrick, it felt like just another day at the office. Absolutely. It just felt like another day at the office. Um, Many think unnamed is Tromley. That could be possible. And also, I think the unnamed person is what I have a big beef with in terms of what Fitzpatrick said, and I'll share that with you in a bit. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and share a spreadsheet with you. Hopefully, everyone is able to see it. Um, if not, that's okay. We have another comment we'll go to very quick. Duty Ron, the Brooks family waited 70 days for this. If this was anyone else, we would be arrested immediately and not granted bail and afforded the opportunity to surrender. And I think, Duty Ron, you actually picked this up on what I was going to say. So there was a statement that Fitzpatrick made that I'll play for you later, in which he said there was an unnamed defendant and that person was unable to surrender today. I want you to look at my face. And I promised myself I would not use much profanity today, but take a look at my face. And you know that if that was you or I saying that we are not available to turn ourselves in, we're not available to be indicted, but we expect the person to come, do you know what would happen? I would have a task force at my door, breaking down my door to handcuff me and take me to the courthouse. We don't get afforded those same rights. We do not get afforded that same right. So that was pretty insulting to hear Fitzpatrick say that. And I'll play that statement. I'm part of me wants to play it now, but I want to wait. I want to wait. Let's jump to another comment real quick before I share the spreadsheet. Bridget said, "Hello, everyone in critical conversations. I'm a bit disgusted with the punishment." Absolutely. Vicky, my apologies, because of a miscommunication. I don't think I got that, but okay. Um, we have another comment from Duty Ron. Why wasn't the second sergeant arrested? I don't know. Good question. Good question. There was talk of another person still in the process of being investigated, and he encouraged that person to cooperate. It could be. Kevin said, unable to surrender. Yeah, that's pretty mind-boggling for me. The person is unable to surrender. You know, I'm off getting lattes and getting a Zoom tan, presumably. We have Conan and 100 saying there was only one race human. I agree with you 100%. There is only one human race, only one race. Unfortunately, what we do have is different classes, and all based on the class that you're in, it feels like it's a two-tier justice system. Vicky wrote, Fitz said the issue with the unnamed, I'm sorry, Fitz said the issue with unnamed bit showing up was a miscommunication. Okay, gotcha. So you're saying, Vicky, that the person that's unnamed not showing up was a miscommunication. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. You know, I have had some limited experiences with law enforcement back in my younger days. If there's a miscommunication, they're breaking down your door. They're sending officers to come for you, whether you're on the toilet, whether you're in church, whether wherever you are, you're coming in. So yeah, a duty Ron. There were two sergeants at both ends of that infirmary. Absolutely, and there's a higher level of responsibility because they were able to potentially stop it, and they did not. Kevin said, what makes me wonder is this was so out in the public, but not hearing the backlash." Actually, there is a clip I'm going to play for you. There's a gentleman that's going to be coming on live with me on Sunday night. His name is Moshe Canty. He did over 2 decades in prison, and he survived. And he's going to be talking about that experience. But he was there today in Oneida Court, and he was part of the protest. I do want to show some of the footage of that protest, but there was a protest at the courthouse, so we will go over that. Vicky said yes. Vicky then says, "I don't believe it either." Okay, so let's jump to my spreadsheet very quickly. Okay, hopefully you're able to see this. If can you do a thumbs up if you can see this well? If not, it's okay. I can modify it, make it bigger. But what I want to do is go over with you uh, all of the officers, the people involved. Okay. So on my list, just so we're clear, I have 20 individuals. I included I included in my list of 20, I included number 19 is the contracted nurse. Obviously, we don't think he's going to face any charges potentially. And number 20, there was a gentleman who was, his indictment was unsealed, and I'm assuming he's a corrections officer. His name was Nicholas Gentile, and his charge was tampering with evidence. Okay. So out of 20 individuals I have here, I'm going to just select those people that are a yes, and we will take a look at, and it's actually 9 individuals who had indictments today. Okay. So let's go into the first person on my list, which is Michael Mashaw, who's a sergeant. He was charged. The top charge that he received was manslaughter in the second degree. And his bail amount, and by the way, I'm sorry. These bail amounts were such a slap in the face. And Duty Ron made this statement on his live stream earlier today. Everything was orchestrated in that courtroom today, because typically, in a typical scenario where someone is getting indicted, they're getting arraigned, they don't have their bail bondsman on hand. Sometimes you can. Someone can correct me, and if I'm mistaken, but these people were prepared. Everything was orchestrated. Everything was ready. I almost felt as if that when you saw these people come out in handcuffs, that they were in the back, they were sitting, having a Diet Pepsi, and then they said, "Okay, it's showtime," and then they put the cuffs on, and then they put the restraints on their body, and then they propped them out for the world to see. But it didn't feel genuine. Okay, so we have Michael Mashaw. His top charge was manslaughter in the second degree, and the bail amount. By the way, there was three types of. I'm sorry, there were two types of bails that were offered, and then there was one individual who was ROR'd, release on recognizance. So we have for Michael Mashaw $50,000 cash, or $100,000 bond, or 500K partially secured bond. Okay. Is he free? Yes, he's currently free right now. He had his bail bondsman present, was able to write off that he's securing his bond or the cash, and he was able to walk out of the courthouse. Okay. Next up, we have David J. Kingsley. Oh, and thank you, Martha, for saying hit that like button if you're able to. Please hit that like button. I would really appreciate it tremendously, tremendously. Okay. Uh, Duty Ron says, I have the indictments from the court. If you want, I can share them with you if you do not have it. Yeah, you can share that with me. That would be amazing. If you're able to email it to me, criticalconversationshr@gmail.com, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. So we have David J. Kingsley. His primary charge, his top charge was murder in the second degree. His bail amount, $100,000 cash, 250K bond. Okay. And then you have, and his secondary charge was manslaughter in the first degree. And then those were the only two charges that I was able to note down for him. Most received 2 charges, some received 3 charges. Next up, we have Nicholas Angelone. So Nicholas Angelone, his top charge 1 was murder in the second degree. And as you'll see, Kingsley, Angelone, Farina, Gallagher and Christopher Rath all have the same bails, and all of them were able to post bond. They had a bondsman present, with the exception of Christopher Walrath. He did not have a bondsman present as well. And one thing that's interesting to note, that some of these corrections officers don't have their own legal counsel. I'm sorry, they do have legal counsel, but not paid legal counsel. They have public defenders, if you're able to believe that. Uh, so Nicholas Angelo, for those of you who may remember, I did a video a couple weeks ago with Andrew Safranco, who made an appearance on a news TV show speaking, quote unquote, generally about the Robert Brooks murder. I had my outrage with how they spoke about it, both Andrew Safranco, and the interviewer. There was one gentleman, white hair, who interviewed him. I thought was atrocious based on the questions. Okay, it turns out that Andrew Safranco is Anthony Farina's attorney. I'm sorry, is Nicholas Angelone's attorney. So let's take a look at. Oh, and we have a couple quick comments I'll bring up. BJ Webbs says, "Did Sergeant Glenn Tromley, head of the beat up squad, get charged?" Not yet. He's currently not charged. On Monday, we will have a 10th CO charged. It might be him. It may not be him. We don't know. Vicky says, Gentile is a CO, by the way. Yeah, I kind of figured that out. My question would be, Gentile is a CO where? Is he from Marcy or is he from Mohawk? Because the William Fitzpatrick did mention somebody from Mohawk potentially being charged, but I don't believe that's him. Okay, so let's jump to Anthony Farina, as we know, is the bald-headed guy who was confronted by the Long Island audit, whose son said it happened in Mohawk, and we know that's going to be part of the criminal defense. So murder second degree, the bond is the same. He is currently free. He walked out of jail today, and his secondary charge is manslaughter in the first degree. Then we have Matthew Gallagher, murder second degree, bond the same as Farina and Anzalone. Manslaughter in the first degree was his second charge, and he also has a third charge that's interesting. This is a gang assault in the second degree. Okay, well, just real quick, we have Vicky chiming in, saying that he's a CEO at Marcy. Oh, sorry. Where is he? Did he have a vacation plan with his kids this week and couldn't appear? Who knows? BJ Webb says Farina should have been charged with some um, sort of thick grot. Yeah. Okay. So, oops, sorry. Agreed, BJ. Yeah. So let's take a look at the other officers. I think we're up to Christopher Walrath here. Murder as top charge, murder in the second degree, same bond as Gallagher. Free. He's not free. So for right now, Christopher Walrath is sitting in jail. He was unable to make bond. His secondary charge is manslaughter in the first degree. So we have a quick comment. This trial should be removed from this county. I don't really see much conviction going to happen. I agree with you. I don't see this happening. What's the judge's name? Somebody can correct me. I believe it's Judge Bauer, Bauer. I should know that. I'm going to bring up an article that has that. We have Roe PLO watching from Toronto, Canada. Thank you for watching. I'm sickened by this. We're all sickened by this. It's pretty disgusting. Next up, we have David Walters, manslaughter in the second degree. his bond, his bail was $50,000 cash, 100K bond. Is he free? Yes, he's free. He was able to walk out. Um, let's go to Michael Fisher, manslaughter second degree, same bond as David Walters, and he was able to secure a bail bondsman, so he is out. And then we have a new person whose name we haven't heard before. We have Mr. Nicholas Gentile, who we're hearing is a corrections officer at Marcy, and his charge was tampering with evidence. And actually, Duty Ron made reference that, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Duty Ron, that somebody with a tampering with evidence charge, there is no bail that gets set for them, that they're ROR'd. So he was ROR'd. He was allowed to go, released on recognizance. So, oh, we have Stephanie sending some love. Hi, Ron. Ron, Ron, you have a lot of fans, out there, a lot of fans. A lot of people appreciate your work, and I do as well. So we have a comment from Vickery. I'm sorry, from Vicky, and she says tampering can get up to 4 years. That's true. We have Luke's wife. When the DA was asked about the American flag, he replied, "That's not part of my investigation. Do you think the feds are still or actually investigating this?" I don't know whether the feds are still investigating this. At the press conference, I don't think there was any Fed people. Duty Ron said that is correct. Kevin says true. Thief de la, lots of rumors flying around that Kessler committed suicide. Any confirmation? I have not heard of that. I want to be very careful not to put that out there. I do know, on a separate note, I'm reporting on a story about women who were assaulted in Albion Correctional, and there was a corrections officer who was charged, and he was about to be sentenced to 6 months. And the day before his sentencing, he passed away. I'm assuming he unalived himself. So I would not be surprised. But honestly, what I'm thinking is that these officers feel like they will get away with this murder. So Vicky says, I heard the suicide thing too. Stephanie said I bet they get some federal charges too. Let's hope. Duty Ron says this is an unconfirmed rumor. Vicky says agree. We really don't know, so we want to be very careful with what we say in terms of the rumors out there. We don't know. So until it's confirmed, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Duty Ron says that's a rumor on Facebook. Have another thank you. Duty Ron, by any means, if you want to come on and talk to the people here, that would be great. If not, I totally understand. But if you want to come on and share your thoughts on today, you're more than welcome. I can send you the link. So we have Pocahontas. What about the rest of them, like the nurse? Very good question. As of now, we do know that there are some individuals that are cooperating with the district attorney. We don't know exactly who is cooperating yet. We do know, and I was going to wait later on to say this, but we do know that I believe it's 3 corrections officers have made plea deals. They've made plea deals for their testimony, and they haven't released the details of those plea agreements yet. I'm assuming all of us are not going to be happy with these plea agreements. I can definitely tell you that. Vicky says they will also be sued in civil court. Yeah, I mean, pretty much all these individuals are named in, a civil suit, a federal one, and a state one as well. So, like, we do know that's definitely going to happen. That's happening. We have another comment, Luke's wife. Yes, will the nurses lose their licenses? I don't know. I would suspect that a nurse can lose their license if their governing body can prove that they falsified information. So if there's proof that information was falsified, then they can definitely lose their license. They even, I'm sure, might be able to lose their license for not reporting harm that was done to their patients as well. Kevin gave Duty Ron another shout out. Okay, let's take a look. Next comment. Gentile, oh, Gentile appeared. Gentile cleaned up Brooks' blood as a means to cover up what they did. I'm not surprised. Also I've heard stories of inmates cleaning up in the infirmary. The Freelance did a story about the nursing staff and how there were a couple of inmates, one specifically who would go in and clean up the blood and the teeth after they orchestrated, beat downs to various inmates. Okay, Caterpillar Girl. Why do they get to keep their guns? So this is a very good question. This may change now because there is a charge, because they've been arraigned, they've been brought up on charges. It's very possible that the state can go back and refile this red flag gun law and have their firearms removed. So now that they're actually charged, it's possible that their firearms can be removed. Okay, Bridget says, my blood was boiling listening to the judge today. Yeah, I mean, my blood was boiling listening to everyone and listening to or not hearing enough from William Fitzpatrick in terms of these bails, in terms of agreeing with everything. Everything was orchestrated, everything was agreed upon beforehand. Any of the white shirts in room going down. Actually, there was a sergeant who was charged, and I'll actually bring that back up because there's one sergeant, Michael Mashaw, who's a white shirt sergeant. He was charged with manslaughter in the second degree. So he was charged. Okay. We have the bear. Everyone who watched the unsealing should be redressing Fitzpatrick. Okay. Vicky says, hold on, about the plea deals. While we don't like it, they may serve to corroborate the video evidence, which is important. I I agree. Typically, in any sort of operation, criminal operation, um, prosecution, you go after individuals and you get them to testify against the bigger individuals. So if I was a low-level drug dealer, a street dealer, I would be arrested, and then your goal would be for me to give up my bosses and give up the higher ups. So I do believe, like, yeah, you do need to make plea deals with some of them. Some of these people you do not make plea deals with, like for example, Kingsley Anzalone. There are 4 or 5 main guys who killed him, who murdered him. So obviously, those individuals you don't make plea deals with initially, but you make plea deals with the other people who may not have put a hand on him, but who witnessed it and did nothing, who failed to report it. We have Martha who says, "I really wanted a perp walk." I really wanted a perp walk as well, but we know that that wasn't going to happen. For me, I was very shocked that we were able to see what happened in the courtroom. I did not expect us to be able to get access to the courtroom. So I'm grateful for that. In terms of a perp walk, I honestly did not think that was going to happen. That would have sent an amazing message, but it didn't happen. It did not happen. Or for abandoning the patient. So I'm assuming, Stephanie, you're making reference to the nurses potentially losing their licenses for abandoning their patient. Yeah, that could be something they could lose their licenses for. My apologies if I'm not connecting what you're saying to what I said. BJ Webbs, do you feel they will end up free and have no murder charge? My belief is that these individuals won't be convicted. I don't think they will be convicted. I will be very shocked if they're convicted, and if they are convicted, a jury of their peers convicts them. I think the judge will sentence them to the least potential sentence possible. I don't think these guys are going to do time. Again, I want them to die in prison. And to be honest with you, this may not be very popular with some people, but I am a firm believer in the death penalty. I do believe in the death penalty for premeditated murder. Um, if it was up to me, this would be a first degree murder charge if you can prove premeditation. Thief Dala says, I would not really hold my breath for Fed charges, not in Trump's America. Okay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm really hoping that there are Fed charges. I would love for Trump to get involved in this. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know. But, you know, Sir Hot says kangaroo court. Absolutely. Like today, what we witnessed today was a straight up kangaroo court. It was horrible. It was disgusting. It was disgusting. Um, Absolutely disgusting. You know, there's no way of going around it. It's bad. You know, some time ago, I made a video and I said there won't be any charges. Obviously, there were charges. For me, I almost felt as though maybe you were better off not to bring any charges against them. The way this was handled. Okay, so I want to give I the thing I want to do is give you some feedback, some of the issues that I felt occurred in court today, right? I think I had mentioned to you that everything seemed orchestrated. Everything seemed orchestrated. Okay. So, for example, the defendants came in and the bail bondsman was there. That occurred. Everything was agreed upon and negotiated before they actually went into court. So that was a big issue for me. That was a very big issue for me. Okay, give me 1 second. Here we go. I had a freeze. I don't know if you guys experienced a freeze. My apologies for that. The forces that be don't want me to report on this. So there was a question before. Oh, we have more comments I want to get to quick before I show you my next video. And dreads, they rip out dreads. Yeah, this is one thing that I did hear about in the freelance news in terms of corrections officers keeping trophies, um, ripping out dreads out of inmates' heads, and also on this Sunday. Hopefully, you're able to join me this Sunday. I have Moshe Canty's coming on, who he's going to talk to you about a corrections officer who had a tattoo on his arm of a black baby and a noose. And this is a corrections officer who worked in one of the facilities where he served time in. So it's pretty bad. Sir Hot says, them fools walked out of court free on bail. Yes, that's correct. They walked out free on bail with the exception of one individual, and that was Christopher Walrath. Christopher Walrath was not able to walk out. He was not able to walk out. Thief, the thief, the law. This prosecutor seems like he's going to go light. He doesn't have the best interest of the family. Shaking my head. I agree with you 100%. I don't see that. Kevin says, but only one of them is in jail tonight. So, and maybe one of you out there can educate me. I want you to assume that I'm ignorant and I want you to talk to me like I'm a third grader. I'm being dead serious with you, okay? Because these bail amounts, unless I am not privy to New York State law, these bail amounts seem very, very low for second degree murder caught on camera. Uh, $100,000. This seems like a joke. This seems like a joke. And out of 100K, you pay a bail bondsman. What is it? 10% of that, and maybe you put up the deed to your house. So I really don't understand it. I don't. It just doesn't make any sense to me why these bails are so low. All right, Stephanie says, I think the prosecutor redeemed himself at the press conference because of bond laws in New York. His hands were tied regarding bond. Okay, well, that's funny, Stephanie, that you mentioned that because I just said that unless there's something I don't know, he seemed to redeem himself. I'm not familiar with the laws in New York in terms of bail, but one thing I believe could have been possible was these guys could have been held without bail. So they could have been held, and Fitzpatrick was just there, did not did not fight against it. Everything was just, yeah, okay, okay, this is what we're doing. There was no argument about bail. Everything was done behind closed doors. So all this time that we were waiting for these indictments to come in, everything was already done behind the scenes. Okay, we have Fif Dela who has a disagreement. I disagree because bail reform doesn't apply to murder in New York City. Charge is automatically bail denied. So again, thank you for that comment there. Thief coming in again. I guess Thief says, I guess these counties operate different because they're all friends. They are all friends. LOL. I'm not surprised. It doesn't surprise me. They're all friends. Caterpillar Girl says unions need reform. Thief again, very, very shocked that they were convicted. LOL. Honestly, I would be very shocked as well if they were convicted. Very, very shocked with that. Um, so there was a question before that I want to get to. Oh, but Sir Hot says this is BS for real. It is BS. There's no way of going around it. It's it's BS. It looks bad. It's bad because we know if this was you or I, the regular Joe Schmo, they could have 25% of the evidence they had in this case. We would not be walking free. We would not be walking free. You have the Brooks family who had to wait for justice for a very long time, and these corrections officers, they were able to hug their families on Valentine's Day. They spent Christmas with them, New Year's, and this is what we get. They're walking free. It's pretty bad. We have Martha saying, I guarantee the ANA will have them in front of a board answering for their actions. I'm assuming that's the American Nursing Association. The Board of Nursing does not mess around. I hope so. I hope so. But think about this, like these nurses they can lose their nursing license, but they'll go on to another job, another profession. And we know in the case of Nurse Matos that there's been cover-ups of beatings and murders for years. For years. We have Bridget saying, but let me tell you that it felt good to see them handcuffed for once, and I think they should have had to remain behind bars until they had to go back to court. I agree with you 1,000%. Yeah, it was good to see them in handcuffs, but for me, this might have been a temporary show. And I almost feel as though they were in the back, they were sipping Kool-Aid, having a Diet Coke, and when it was time to be brought out, paraded out, that's when they put their handcuffs on. See, because you see how quickly they were able to get out of that jail. We had Vicky on Fed charges. We did hear that the FBI was looking at it, and then they were all the DOJ I'm sorry, I'm slow. The DOJ Exeter. I'm sorry, I don't think I made out that comment correctly. Oops. Okay. That's okay. Okay. So what? All right, we have more comments. Let me get to some more comments. Executive order freeze is not sure if things have been restarted. Yeah, that's a topic for another stream. If you're talking about the executive order freezes in terms of Governor Hochul and the union, if you're referring to that, Sirhat says civil rights violations all day. Feds have jurisdiction. Absolutely. Okay. So I do want to play for you some video from inside the courthouse. Excuse me. I do want to play some video for you inside the courthouse from some protesting that occurred after the indictments came down. So let me open this up and share it with you. Now you see here protesting that was occurring, and I'll jump ahead.
Syracuse, New York. Fitzpatrick was the DA on the case.
Oh, okay. So this woman, this young lady who's about to come on, who's speaking about, I believe her son being assaulted and Fitzpatrick not doing anything.
Can I please say something? I'm from Syracuse, New York. My son was beat up. They used excessive force in Syracuse, New York. Fitzpatrick was the DA on the case. Because I sued the city of Syracuse. What's to say that Fitzpatrick is some other, I can't even think right now. There's so much stuff going on.
Robert Brooks. Robert Brooks. Robert Brooks. Robert Brooks. Robert Brooks. Robert Brooks. Robert Brooks.
Okay, I'm gonna jump ahead to another portion of it. By the way, this gentleman you see holding up the cell phone, that's Moshe Canty. He's going to be on Sunday night, sharing his experience.
Justice for Robert Brooks. Justice for Robert Brooks. Justice for Robert Brooks. Justice for Robert Brooks. Justice for Robert Brooks.
Okay. Okay. I'll stop it there. I just wanted to give you a sense of some of the protesting that was happening inside of the courthouse. And there's one thing that I'll talk about is while the court proceedings were happening, you did have family members, you did have people who were not happy with what was going on with the indictments, and there were comments, they were yelling, there was murderers being yelled out. So there was some protesting inside of the courtroom, and I think the court officers gave them some leeway during that time. They did give them some leeway. All right, let's jump to a couple other comments. I wish they would have moved this trial to New York City. Those CEOs would be cooked. Yeah, there's no way they would move this trial to New York City. One of the all the defense attorneys would have been like, my client deserves the opportunity to be tried, to be looked at by a jury of his peers, and they would outright scream to the high heavens that New York City would not be the right jurisdiction. So that's one thing that we do know that wasn't going to happen. But I wish it was. Vicky, is that coffee or wine in a cup? I'm going to be very honest with you. Today was a very stressful day. This whole thing that occurred was very stressful. I typically don't drink. I haven't had a drink in about a year and a half. So this thing happened all day following watching Duty Ron and then, following up on various videos and research for tonight. So upset, so pissed off, stressed out with kids. And then I bought I bit the bullet. I went, bought a bottle of wine, trying to de-stress myself. Hopefully you don't see this constantly on my streams, but I really don't drink, but this is why. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, another comment from Fif Dala. That CEO worked in Comstock. I know who you were speaking about, LOL. With the tat of the baby on the news, he was a sergeant. Yes. Fif, okay. So you probably, when you hear Moshe speak, you will, you might be familiar with the stories and the environment. So interesting. I heard of a murder getting bail in New York City years ago, but that was bail was $1 million. I mean, honestly, $1 million would have been appropriate bail, or 2 million for what occurred. A murder caught on camera, $100,000 bail. With correction officers that make, from part of my research, what I saw, some of these officers could make with overtime 140 a year, maybe more, after just a few years of being a CO. I mean, this is not a high bail. It's just crazy. Sharon says, I wanted to see them in prison uniform. Absolutely. We know that wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. By the way, if you haven't already, please do me a favor and click on the like button. I would really appreciate that. Obviously, if you find value, like the stream, that would be a big deal for me. Thank you so much. Vicky says the Oneida County Sheriff inmate list shows Kingsley. There are two. Okay, okay. So maybe he did not make bonds, but my understanding was he had a bonds person there. So maybe he's in the process of getting out. I don't know, but thanks for bringing that up. BJ Webb says like it was rehearsed. It was rehearsed. Everything was negotiated beforehand. And I'm not saying that that doesn't happen in a criminal court. Sometimes that can happen. You talk with the DA, your attorney beforehand, and you square things away. But everything seems very, very rehearsed. Caterpillar Girl, yes, they are a thief. I can testify it. It's an all-white boy club here. Wow, not very surprising. Not very surprising at all. Um, Then we have that's not true. Jordan Neely killer was bailed out. Yeah, I'm familiar uh, with that case. Um, Donna Torres says, "What is horrific about this is that Robert Brooks suffered brain damage from this. Even if he survived, he would have been living in a vegetative state. Horrible. Um, these people should not be walking the streets. Obviously, they should not be walking the streets with what occurred. It's a big slap in the face what happened today. I don't think there's. Oh, by the way, is there anyone that disagrees with me? Is there anyone that believes that what happened today went well? I would love to hear from you. By the way, I do have some more stuff I want to share with you, but I want to give you guys the opportunity to maybe put one or two people on. If you want to come in and have a conversation with me, I could post a link. And by the way, I would just say, be sure if you do want to come chat with me live, that you have a decent camera. There's no music playing in the background because of copyright strikes for me. I'm just a humble small YouTuber trying to make my way in this world, trying to grab a nut. So I don't want to have any copyright strikes. So if there's anyone that wants to come on, I can pause for a little bit and take some people who want to come on and share. I can tell you what I'm planning to go into after we have a couple of conversations is I do want to go get into the family statement. I'm very mixed about the family statement. I was a little bit surprised by the family statement, but not really. So I do want to talk about and share the family statement with you. And then I want to go into Mr. Bill Fitzpatrick, the DA of Onondaga County, and go over his statement. That will take me some time. It won't take me that long. So I'm gonna put in the link now. And if you want to come on, feel free to come on. The link is there again. If you want to come on chat with me, just be sure that um, you have a decent camera. There's no music in the background. Excuse me. No music in the background, and we'll take it from there. Okay. I'll go over some comments. Bridget says, I agree with you. Critical conversations. Thank you. We have a comment from Vicky saying, I see David Walters sitting in jail too. David Walters. Okay. Okay. It could be, yeah. So let's see what happens if he does end up coming out. Sir Hots, this all a dog and pony show. This prosecutor is going to twist the facts and let these dudes get off of a real light sentence facts. And Sir Hots, I will say this to you, that if you would have approached me back in November of 2024, I would have disagreed with you. I think after seeing the video, after seeing what's been occurring, and after seeing all these patterns, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. So I kind of agree with you. I don't think we'll have true justice. If we do, I'll be surprised. I think I wouldn't be surprised if this prosecution, they end up making some willful mistakes, and having some of these charges dropped on a technicality. I think what we'll see is we will see um, the defense attorneys trying to get the body cam video not being allowed to come into court. We did see Andrew Safranco on a previous video of mine talk about the body cam footage not being allowed to come in. So there will be motions from these defense attorneys to not allow these body cams to come in. That's going to happen. We have a comment from Ro Plo that says none of them look like tough goons today. I agree with you 1,000%. It's hard to look like a tough goon, handcuffed, and it's bad. Kevin, I see you. You give me a quick second. I'll bring you on. Oh, Kevin, and by the way, for anyone who's coming on, be sure try to have headphones and try to listen to the audio on headphones, because there might be an issue with the microphone and the audio piece if you're playing the speakers out. So just FYI for anyone who wants to come on. I see Kevin smiling in the background. So we have a comment from Vicky. So Kingsley, Walters, and Walrath are sitting in jail. No money for bail, I guess. Okay. I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case. But what I saw on Duty Ron stream tonight was bail bondsmen coming up by the prosecutor's table and signing away from them. Caterpillar Girl, I started smoking today. Vicky, it's okay. Loose wife, jury of their peers, question mark. My husband at 23 years old, black man, had a jury of all white people. And one old black woman sentenced to life. Wow. Wow. The thing I will say is that, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, that in the ASAP Rocky trial that I followed, I believe ASAP Rocky had an all-white jury, and they ended up acquitting him, and they found him not guilty on both charges. But also, it's a very different case, and the alleged victim was just a horrible victim, a horrible witness. Some got a public defender. How? Well, the thing is, they have to go through a process of proving they're indigent is the word, that they don't have the means, because it could be that they live check to check and they're not working. They were suspended without pay. So that's one thing to know. And it's possible they live paycheck to paycheck. No eyewitnesses, no physical evidence, no eyewitnesses, and no weapon. Oh wow, that's horrible. Did he have a public defender? Did you have a paid attorney? Okay. You know what? Kevin's waiting. I wanna bring up Kevin up to the stage now. Kevin,
Hey, how's it going? I don't want to be on here long. I just how are you doing?
honestly, I'm not doing too good, and I know I'm not doing too good when I start yelling at my kids, right,
Oh wow.
unnecessarily. So I saw myself getting angry. I saw myself kind of like being very quick-tempered tonight,
Yeah.
and so I know it had nothing to do with my children. So
Oh, I'm
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 so
not in a
sorry.
very good place. It's okay.
I know I talked to you a couple of days ago. I sent you a message about you're looking in the dark face of what government or what this scenario brings about. And you have to be careful because looking in the darkness and what you see looking back at you can be rather scary. We need people like that in order to report, but you have to take care of yourself. I
Mhm.
was so disgusted and disheartened. I haven't had alcohol in 33 years, so I'm not gonna have alcohol now. But if I did, I would pour some out for Robert Brooks and his family because
No.
if I feel bad watching this miscarriage of justice, how do you think they feel? They saw a father and a son and their relative, a man who made a mistake. How many of the people watching this right now have made a mistake, right? Stabbing somebody is not a good thing. I don't want to
No.
I don't want to justify that, but that is not a death sentence.
No, but Kevin, one thing I want to tell you is that many, many, many years ago, early in my career in human resources, I worked for a nonprofit that worked with prisoners, ex-prisoners, and their family members.
Mhm.
Okay, and a lot of the staff that we hired were formerly incarcerated, and you'd be surprised how quickly you think it's not going to happen to you.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and sometimes you're one bad decision away from your life being totally transformed,
you know,
totally transformed. One decision, right? So you have a life of X number of years of doing good things, and mind you, no one is truly good. I understand that, but let's say you've lived a legal life, right? You haven't committed
yeah,
crimes, and
yeah,
you do one bad thing, you get caught up in the wrong with the wrong people, and mind you, I do agree in accountability. Everyone has to take ownership of their own life, right? But
yeah,
sometimes you make a mistake, and there's consequences for what you have to, for the crimes that you commit. There's
yeah.
consequences for it. But
So,
no one deserves to be killed. And
yeah,
and there's stuff that I'm gonna play for you in terms of Fitzpatrick, in which we've learned that what we saw on camera was the third beating.
yeah.
That was the beating number three. Before he got to that room, he was beat twice.
Okay.
He was beat twice.
And here's the thing: is there's so much that is hidden. There's so much that is in subterfuge, right? I would just I'm I know I shared with you if we were in a prisoner of war scenario, then this would be normal. This is not what we saw today was not. I don't believe it's normal. Nobody is, definitely not media, has come out to say, "Oh, this is normal. This is the way life is." Because my experience with the criminal justice system when I was much younger, was one that was based on what I was doing. Now, I was very, very fortunate because I'd never been in jail. So I was released on my own recognizance. It was not even overnight. But that was because of a stupid mistake of a 18-year-old,
Okay.
right? But here, in a situation like this, if I had been put in this place, would I even be alive now at 18 years old from a simple mistake? So I feel, here's what I want to say. Since I'm on a public platform, I want to say I feel for you, for the Brooks family. I'm so sorry you had to put up with this. To have a loved one murdered in plain sight, as I say, it's like a lynching, and those murderers are going to be let free or be given the most minimum sentence you can imagine. And why? Because they're different than you and I? I mean, watching it with Duty Ron this morning, I was sickened. And I cannot tell you how many people, what was it the last time we were on? I said, one person tell another person, one person tell 5 people of what they saw here. We need to just shine a light on this and let people know that that was a miscarriage of justice. What we saw was something that should never happen for anybody, out of fairness, out of justice, out of a moral universe.
Absolutely, I agree with you. It was a miscarriage. It was horrible to watch. And again, I almost felt as though I would have been better with no charges whatsoever, no indictments, than seeing what I saw today. Because what I saw today felt like it was just going through motions. There was no justice. It was just, okay, let's do this, and Fitzpatrick just, cold and
Business as
you
usual.
know,
I think there
like,
were a couple of those attorneys that were smiling.
yes, we have a comment from Bridget. Actually, I'll bring that up now. That says, "Did you see that smile on that public defender's face? That was disgusting."
True.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't
So
want to
yeah, I
usurp
saw
your
that.
time. So,
No,
but
no,
thank
don't
you.
worry about usurping.
Thank you so very much for keeping this thing alive. I thank Duty Ron. I thank the freelance. I thank for, and it's right. Think about how vast the internet, how vast YouTube is, how vast all of the reporting things are, and
Mhm.
of everything we have, you can find this amount. Right? There are a lot of people that are here now that were with Duty Ron this morning, and they've been following both of it. Why is that? Because there's so few people doing it. So I want to encourage you, but I also want to implore: take care of yourself. Your
I
family
will.
shouldn't, you know, um, they shouldn't be the bearers of that kind of injustice and how it makes us feel. I
Yeah.
can't even
Yeah.
imagine what it was like in the 1900s, the Red Summer. So,
No. And there's one thing, Kevin, that I'll share with you. It's just you and I here. There's no one else here, right?
okay,
So there's one thing there's one thing that I'll share with you that I've always said was that when I was younger, I never wanted to get married. I never wanted to have children because I didn't like the way the world was.
yeah,
I did not like the way this world was at all, you know? And this is part of the reason why,
yeah.
because of the level of
Uh,
injustice
My
that
kids, my
occurs.
kids feel the same way you do, right? They whether it has to do with the economics, right? They're young, they're in their 20s, right? So the economics, they can't live on their own. They're in a place that seems hostile to them, and I may be, what do they call that? Neurodivergent, right? And so yeah, but I'm also much more mature, and I've had to live through things to get to where I'm at now, and
Well, I'm
it
sorry, Kevin. What
reverberate.
what does neurodivergent mean? Neurodivergent. What does that mean?
Neurodivergent. So the two terms, neurodivergent and
Neuro-
neurotypical. So neurotypical is when they would say normal, average, that sort of thing. Neurodivergent, when we use things like Asperger's or ADHD or AA or OCD or these terms that deal with how we deal with life, how we see life, how we deal with it, and then how we express that. That's when you're talking about neurodivergence and neurotypical, you're talking about that realm, right? You find people out, like I'm a poet, I cook, I play guitar, right? I have YouTube channels.
Yeah.
I have all of these things that I do that I thought was normal until my kids were the ones who revealed to me, look, Dad, you're not normal. You're not bad, but you're not normal because of the things that you do, right? That not everybody does that. So that's hopefully that helps some.
Yeah. So Kevin, what do you think is going to be the end game? So like one thing I did not say before was that March 31st is when that's the next court date.
Yeah.
Like we'll
That's
probably go
when
through
is that, in March?
motions. I think they said March 31st
March 30th.
is the next
So we
court
got
date.
a month and a week.
Okay. So what do you think, Kevin, is going to be the end game? Like, do you see convictions? Do you
I got to tell you
tell me
honestly,
what you see.
I think the end game has already happened. I believe, what I think about what you see, right? All of the people that are staying on top of this are fairly sharp people. You see some really good comments. I know I put out some ones like, wait a minute, because of who I am, I'm process driven. I make amazing flow charts, how things work. This has to have a path that allows this to happen. There are things that have to happen for this to continue. Otherwise, automatically, the system would shut it down. And the system has not shut it down. But to go a step further, it not only hasn't shut it down, it has allowed it to perpetuate to where it is a normal thing. Think about what we saw today. The behavior of Fitzpatrick, the behavior of those attorneys, the behavior of those people who should all be in jail for what was that, murder in the first degree, right? That's the worst one?
It was murder in the second degree.
I know it was murder in the second degree, but I'm thinking, okay, murder in the first degree for a couple of them that we saw actually. Who was it? Was it the one who was holding his throat? Was it not Angelina, Farina, where he was shoving it down his throat? One was choking him. The guy who was punched him in his chest. You can stop a heart, right? So we know that there are some that are guilty, but what's happening is they're allowing them to walk. This is the precursor, right? They're televising their punch, right? Oh no, the district attorney who should be holding justice in this case is like, oh no, we should send this guy home because there are things that I have to do. Let's give them the minimum of this. We give them public defenders so they don't have to come out of pocket. And then we go ahead and get them set up so they can go home for $10,000 in bail. Think about that. This is televised. They're televising the whole thing. Now, what happens when they come to court? It's probably going to depend on who they put in the jury, right? The only justice is probably going to be the civil.
Yeah. So I think someone had a comment before talking about the civil courts and them getting a payout. I really don't give a squat about the payout, and I know money's important, right?
Well, think about what money can do, right? As a black man, I understand economic struggle, right? When the government really wanted to take it to the KKK and other white supremacist group, they took their pocketbooks, their banks, their money, their land. They took the things that were financially important, right? Did you hear what happened to that church, that neo-Nazi group? I forgot their name, but they now, every single time the name is used, that money goes to this church that they terrorized. It is extremely right. If you can't get justice and they should be in jail, you can take away everything they have. And
Yeah,
guess what happens
I
when you don't have money?
struggle. You struggle, and unless, because let me tell you what happens sometimes. People start getting wise, and they start putting assets in other people's names.
Yeah.
So it's possible they will live, they will have a life, and they will have people
They've
providing
already,
for them.
nothing's going to change. That's
No.
unfortunately what we saw, right? I think I want you to take a step back. Let's go to December.
Okay.
What happens in December is now reverberating to today. It's taken 76 days to get here. No guns taken. I stayed with my family. I have a very light thing. I go back home, except for a couple or a few, and then I come to court. And maybe they even say, "Well, we can't submit this as evidence." Something that is a critical point, and then suddenly they're released, or maybe one or two of them get a year or two. Is that all his life was worth?
Yeah. Yeah. I listen. I agree with you 1,000%. Unfortunately, it seems like these guys are going to get off. Very,
And,
very lucky.
yeah,
And
that's and I
minimal
think I
jail
even
time.
typed hope against hope. I don't see justice. What I see is the silencing of justice.
Yeah.
Right, Letitia James. What's his name? What Fitzpatrick? I forget his first name.
William, aka Bill Fitzpatrick.
Bill Fitzpatrick, William. So I don't see you. You see that they're the friend of police. They probably have a very close relationship with the unions. They probably have a close relationship with a lot of other very powerful. And the thing is, if somebody could actually uncover inside, this would probably be something that rolls up quite far. And now it's gonna fizzle with a whimper unless those of us that feel this is so grievous are gonna stand up and say, look, you may not know Robert Brooks, but I want you to find out. And then look at the miscarriage of justice, how it took almost 80 days for anything to happen to those you can see killing him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I'm making a commitment to everybody here. I'm going to continue to cover this up until sentencing or after sentencing. I'm not
good.
going to forget about this. I mean, listen, I'm not a major YouTuber by any means. I
Yeah.
think now maybe my subscriber base is maybe under 500, which is nothing compared to some of the
Yeah.
real big people who have, 500,000 subscribers and they have bigger audiences. So, I thank the people like the Duty Rons who have a big audience.
Absolutely.
Push
That
this
was
out
huge. That was huge. It was great to see that he was here. He is also looking for answers. Somebody who does a lot of what he has done, the people that he's had on, he's searching. He's genuine about justice. You are the same, and it's great to see this because it's the only way it's going to happen. This is going to get picked up. This is already in the annals of history, and it's actually happening. And are we on the right side of history with this? I don't believe that the courts are on the right side of history with this. And we have to tell the narrative because they will take it over if we don't
Mhm.
do what we're doing, what you're doing. But be careful. I have to tell you honestly, um, at 63 years old, I have to be careful of my mental health. I'm a black man in America who's worked for 40 some odd years in corporate world, and you, you don't realize it until now. Some of these skill sets that you have were survival. The fact that I'm able to move in and out, I'm able to be as eloquent as I can, to do all of these different things. I've had to do that, and my mental health has taken a toll these last few years since 2016, and we know who came into office then. It's just been allowed to be a little. This place does not feel like a place of peace, um, you know. And part of it's because of what we see and the fact that we're so interconnected thanks to the internet, YouTube, any kind of social media that we have. I remember during the pandemic learning to doom scroll because I was not sure of what was going on. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's got to be late. It's like 1:16 for you. It's only
No,
seven.
it's 10:18. I am in Florida. It's East Coast.
Oh, you're in Florida.
EST. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm
So,
in Washington State. So
okay.
yeah, I'm when I leave, I'm gonna go watch what is it? My oldest wants me to watch Adventure Time. Right? The cartoon?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, sure, I would love to. Anything that allows me a chance to spend time with my kids. That's a part of that decompressing, right? Seeing what I did in Duty Ron, talking like I am with you and listening and actually hearing and seeing the things that are going on. And there may be protests happening, but I'm not seeing it anymore.
No.
Right? We saw the protests that happened in there, but where else in the world is it happening? And it is, we can't see it. Media's
Okay.
covering it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Kevin,
So
is there anything else you want to add?
nah, that's pretty
No?
much it. Me for my, yeah, I really appreciate what you're doing. And thank you.
No, thank you.
Just keep it up. And I'm here to support in any way that I can. And with my channel, I have to be honest with you. With my channel, I know that I'm shadow banned because I'm talking to the 11 subscribers that I have, and they're like, "I'm not getting your new stuff," and it comes out every day.
Yeah. Well, listen, Kevin, why don't you go ahead and plug your channel and let
Okay.
people know where they're able to find you?
All right. You go to Until Reparations Comes dash C4Y. I don't know why C4Y, but it's Until Reparations Comes, all one word, dash C4Y. And you can just do an ampersand in front, and if that's what they're called. And that'll get you there. I've got actually about 100 videos now, but my kids don't like the tools that I'm using. So I may stop and go back to being organic. I don't use my voice. I've been using other things because what's been important is the message. And so my oldest said, "Well, why don't you just write it and get rid of any visual stimuli, and then it'll just be about the words." And now I got to get it to where I read those words rather than using AI voice. So
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. Well, listen, definitely be sure to type that in the chat so people can have it.
okay,
I think you're able to do that. If not, I may have to approve something, but go ahead and put your
okay.
channel in the chat. And we'll definitely connect soon. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
and everyone else who actually
Yes.
watches my videos. I've been on YouTube since August. And for those of you who don't know,
Well,
I started out
we're in the
doing
same boat.
Okay.
You may not know this, but we're in the same boat. What you're doing with Robert Brooks is I'm doing for foundational Black Americans, those of us that have a lineage that goes back as long as the states have been states, the United States. So
Gotcha.
um, that's what it's about. And I'll say a little plug for it. The reason it came about is when California did its reparations task force. They did an amazing job. It took 2 years. They got it done, got it implemented, and we're starting the single most important thing, which was setting up an institution, a regulatory institution to hold the money uh, for what would be reparations. And I was so inspired when it was sabotaged from the inside. It was the Black Caucus California Black Caucus that sabotaged it. And it was really Gavin Newsom. He wants to look good. So he kind of whispered and said, he's not going to be, somebody said he's not going to be very comfortable with some of the things that are on there. And so they just withdrew it all. From that day, I said, this has to stop. Same reason you have this channel going. This has to stop. People have to be aware. And if all I've got is the ability to tell stories and the ability to get information and the ability to share truth, that's what I'll do. And my kids love the passion idea. They hate the tools that I use to do it because I am creative enough to play guitar, to write my own script, to record it, and then add whatever elements I want to it. So it takes a lot longer to do that.
Yep, it does. Well, definitely keep that passion. I love it.
Thank you. All right. You have a
Kevin,
wonderful evening, and we'll see you again. I'm sure of it.
I'll see you. Kevin, don't go anywhere. Stay on. I have more to go through, okay? So I'll see you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. That was Kevin. What I'm going to do next is jump through some of the comments here. We have Bridget who says, did you see the smile on that public defender's face? That was disgusting. I think we saw that. Kevin and I spoke about it. It was just, it wasn't appropriate. Yeah, I agree. Not well at all from BJ Webbs. They should be locked up now. Yeah, I think we all agree they should be incarcerated. They should be locked up. Thief the law. I wasn't surprised that they were going to get bail. Nyscoba is backing them. So this was something that came up on Duty Ron's podcast in terms of who's paying for their attorneys, how are they getting bailed out. So Thief the law, you have any information that Nyscoba is backing them, feel free to share that. If there's an article, a resource, I would definitely love to see that because I think it's something that the public should know if Nyscoba is backing up these officers. We have Luke's wife, Bridget, the female attorney, was laughing. They're all disgusting. Agree. Canon 100, their faces said it all. They weren't worried. Yeah, because they knew exactly what was going to happen before it happened. They knew what was going to happen. We have Thief the law. Why would they not allow the body cam as evidence? Thief the law, good question. I myself don't have an answer to it. That would probably be something that a defense attorney would be able to answer for you. They're allowed to make that argument. Whether it's going to fly in court, I don't know. I would hope not, but that's something that we can't expect. And the reason why I brought that up is because Andrew Safranco brought that up in his interview. And I actually did a video about that. You can check my channel. And he spoke about the body cam evidence potentially not being admitted. Okay. So we have a comment from Caterpillar Girl. I think my system froze up. Give me 1 second. Okay. Says, "Oh wow, oh my wow, that's outrageous. The body cam says it all." No, okay, sorry, we had a lag. Miss TN, I'm really optimistic, and I know every juror would have seen the video, but you never know as we live in the most divisive times. I agree with you 100%. Um, that Oneida County is very tight knit. Everyone knows each other. Whether they will get, jurors that will actually convict them, I don't know. I don't know. But Miss TN, thank you for commenting. I really appreciate it. Uh, Set the tone. My Latino and Black brothers and sisters, we just watch how they get the better treatment. We seen one of our brothers get treated crazy, worst over bad dog treatment. And set to tone. It's funny that you mentioned that because I will tell you this. I thought about this the other day, and honestly, I've seen more outrage in the media when there's a video of a dog being hurt or a cat being abused than what I saw with the Robert Brooks murder. And I'll say that again. I've seen more outrage from people, more public outrage from an animal being abused than an actual human being, Robert Brooks, and his murder. It boggles the mind how this could be the case, and it hurts me. Vicky, Vicky says they will try a lot of things to get the video thrown, including chain of custody, etc. I agree with you 100%. Vicky says, "Oh hi Kevin." Miss Tien says, "If the man was not cuffed, I would see an angle they would take, but how can anyone explain what we saw?" There's always a way of spinning things, always a way of spinning it, and that's the job of the defense attorney, is to take what you have and to spin it a certain way and try to get the best outcome for your client. So, Fief de La says exactly these COs want to be judge, jury, and God, and that's what we saw. These correction officers play God and killed Robert Brooks. Miss Tien says that video needs to be shown. The entire world has seen it. So who would keep it from them? It's very possible. Miss Tien, I hope you're right. I hope the jury does see that once they get into those, the trial itself. I hope that goes into evidence. Now, what I want to do now is actually wait, hold on a second. You know what? I want to give the opportunity one more time for anyone who wants to come on and share their thoughts on what happened today in court. I'm putting the link again to chat. If you want to come up to chat with me, just have a decent camera, a decent mic, and no audio in the background, no music playing, so that I avoid any copyright strikes. So if anybody wants to come on, you want to chat with me. If you disagree with me in anything I said, feel free to come on. I'm more than willing to have a conversation. I'll give it 5 seconds. If not, what I want to do next is jump to the family statement next that I'll share with you. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to share with you the family statement, and it goes as follows. Robert Brooks Jr., the son of Mr. Brooks, shared the following statement. In December, my family and I watched my father brutally beaten to death by New York correctional officers. Earlier this month, we received the medical examiner's painful but unsurprising conclusion that my father's death was considered a homicide. And today, I saw New York correctional officers finally face criminal charges for killing my father. Nothing can bring him back to us. Nothing can return to us what these men have taken away. Still, these indictments are a necessary and important step toward accountability. These men killed my father on camera. All the world could see what happened. Waiting for these charges has been incredibly hard. These men must be fully prosecuted and convicted for what they have done. But even the convictions of these corrections officers for the murder of my father will not be enough. Every person in authority who allowed this system of violence and abuse to exist and continue for so long must be held accountable. We pledge not to rest until we see meaningful change in our state prisons, in how our state prisons are operating, so that no one else has to go through what my family and I have gone through. Jared Brooks' brother said, "These indictments bring some measure of relief to my family as we grieve my brother's loss. No one is above the law." Elizabeth Mazur, attorney for Robert Brooks Jr., said, "Today's charges send an important message to correctional officers everywhere. Wearing a badge does not give anyone license to act with impunity." Stephen Swartz, attorney for Robert Brooks Jr., said, "We believe murder indictments are an appropriate and necessary step toward holding the individuals responsible for the murder of Robert Brooks accountable." So that was the comment, the family statement. So I really don't want to say too much about that. Actually, we have somebody in the back waiting, conservative felon. I'm going to add you to the stage. Hello, Fish. How are you?
What's happening, brother? How you doing?
I'm good. Well, look, honestly, I'm not too well, but why don't you tell people who you are, where they can find you, and tell us your thoughts about what happened today.
I'm getting a little feedback on the channel. I'm wondering if I'm coming through correctly. I actually still hear you reading the letter. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I hear you well. The thing you may want to do is not look at the YouTube and maybe look at on the StreamYard link that you went to. And then if you have headphones, sometimes that helps. If you plug in headphones and you listen to the audio on the headphones, that might help.
I'm going to give that a shot for you right now.
Okay. But basically the people can hear you just fine. They see you, they hear you, but it sounds like from your end you're getting feedback.
That seems like it's a little better. Can you hear me well now?
Yeah, we basically hear you perfectly. We see
Sorry
you.
about that.
It's okay. No worries. No worries.
Trying to get my act together.
All right, we got you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So tell the people who you are and what you do, and tell us your thoughts about what happened today in court with the indictments.
Sure. I can. I'm still getting the feedback, but I think we can make this work.
Okay.
I served 17 years in the Department of Corrections, and during those 17 years, I definitely experienced myself the beat up squads. You know, one thing that I have to honestly say, I won't talk too much here, is that I think a lot of people need to understand that there are good and bad correctional officers, right? And that needs to be clear. You know, that is no justification. I'm not making any justification for these officers that beat Robert Brooks to death. They need to go away for murder. That's my opinion, that they need to go away for murder. You know, but there's a percentage of guys in there that are real good, you know, and that never went out of their way to harass me, and that go in there and clock in and do their time. There are guys like that, you know, and that needs to be, you know, I need to admit that as a former prisoner as well. But there is an alarming number of men in there that are very abusive, right? And so that really needs to be addressed, because I was in 9 different prisons during my 17 years. And in every single prison, there was a group of officers that were hands-on, and we're dealing with, as bad as it may sound, we're dealing with a bunch of country boys who are upstate New York. They're not really used to dealing with a group of minorities. And if you saw it in the strikes, I mean, they're striking in 30 prisons right now. And when you look at the people that are striking, you see huge groups of white men in camouflage clothes burning fires outside of prison. That's what you see. That's not my opinion. There are no black faces in that crowd. There are no Spanish faces in that crowd. You see a bunch of upstate white country boys wearing camouflage jackets standing outside, right? That tells a lot about character, you know what I mean? And that's a reality whether people want to realize that or not. And with that said, some of them are good, but an alarming number are bad, right? Getting to the court case real quick, their bail was definitely way too low. Their bail should have been, they should have got a $500,000 bail. A $500,000 bail would have been fair. This was a murder that was caught on video. There wasn't much to debate about that. You know what I mean? But as I said, you're dealing with a town where the judge knows the DA. They all know those correctional officers. The correctional officers know all the law enforcement up there. It's a very small town. It's a very small town. This is just my opinion. It's very early to tell, but this is what I think is going to happen. I think some of the lesser charges are going to get dismissed. I think a couple of those officers are going to walk scot-free. I think a couple will be put on probation, and I think a couple of them will get some time. You know what I mean? They might get time for manslaughter in the second. I don't think anyone's going away for murder. That's just my opinion. I don't think they're going to go away for murder. I think they might go away for manslaughter in the first or the second. And manslaughter in the second, the maximum sentence is 12.5 to 25 years. But they could also get 5 years for manslaughter in the second. So it really, is a long way to go. I think the good thing is, I'll end with this. I think the good thing is that they're ratting on each other already, right?
Yeah.
They already made that clear. The district attorney made that clear that there's cooperating witnesses, and cooperating witnesses are going to do the most damage, because those were people that were in the room that saw what happened, and they're willing to talk for a plea bargain. They're willing to talk for less time. And that's what happens when murder gets involved. I had a murder case. I went away from murder, and I ended up pleading guilty to manslaughter. I was charged with murder in the second degree. I sat on Rikers Island for 3 years fighting the case. The judge reduced the charge to manslaughter in the first. I pled guilty to manslaughter in the first, and I got the maximum sentence, which was 12.5 to 25. But my point was, everybody started talking. When murder gets involved, people start talking. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. But I appreciate you covering the case as well, because as we know, the mainstream media really stayed away from the case for the most part. And we didn't see this on Channel 11 New York News, and we saw it on some upstate news channels. The mainstream media stayed away from the beating death. And you were right. If an animal was killed, there would have been more coverage if an animal was killed, and they treated him like an animal, which was really sad, man. So, I mean, only time will tell now. It's a shame. They should have sat in jail. They shouldn't have got bail. They should have sat in jail for the next 8-9 months until they went to trial, so they could get a feel of what it's like to be locked up. It is an injustice that they're still walking free. That's an injustice. It's a murder charge. I wasn't given bail. They didn't give me any bail when I caught a murder charge, right? And mine wasn't on video, so these guys got bail, which is crazy. They should have sat in jail, but it is relieving to know that they lost their job. It's not enough, but they lost their job. Their badges were taken away from them. Their guns were taken away from them. And guns mean everything to those type of guys. They love their guns. Upstate country boy correctional officers love their weapons. They'll never be able to possess a weapon again as long as they're convicted of a felony. They'll never have a badge again. They'll never have a law enforcement job again as long as they're found guilty of some type of felony. But they still need to go away.
I agree. I agree. Fish, one quick question. Well, it may not be that quick. What do you think? Like, what's the root cause analysis? Like, what makes this even possible that you could have this happen in the United States of America in a prison? Somebody just slaughtered the way that Robert Brooks was. Like, what? Like, what's the mentality behind this? Do you hear me, Fish, or you're having a bad
Well,
connection? Or
can you hear me? Can you still hear me?
yeah, I hear you just fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say what their, what the mentality is behind it. But I say this, that in order to become, what can change, right? To stop the mentality, I think is a little more important. The mentality is that they don't see them as equal to them. That's their mentality, right? They don't see them as equals because going back to it again, you're dealing with an upstate town where there's no minorities. There's no minorities there, right? And they see them as pieces of shit. They see the prisoners as pieces of shit. When I was in prison, it was the way they talk to you is like you're nothing. I give an example. You could be standing in the wrong spot. Excuse my language for a minute, but I'm going to give you an example of how you're spoken to by a correctional officer. You can be a prisoner and you might be standing in an area that you're not allowed to stand in. And the guy says to you, "Hey, you fucking asshole. What the fuck are you doing, sir? Are you stupid? What are you standing over there for? Get the fuck over there." That's how they talk to you, right? And so from the beginning, there's no common courtesy. You know what I mean? There's no rehabilitation. It's incarceration in New York State. They don't have an attitude like they're trying to help you. They don't have an attitude like they're trying to help you change your behavior. It's you're an animal. You're locked up, right? And I think a way to make a difference is that in order to be a correctional officer, all you need is a high school diploma, right? And that's not enough. You need to give them, even if it's a 2-year associate's degree, they need to have some type of degree in social work, some type of degree in human interaction, some type of degree in psychology. Even if it's a 2-year degree, they need to learn and be educated on how to deal with human beings. Because the fact is, and I hate to keep going back to it, but the fact is you're dealing with a bunch of country guys that were farmers. That's not an insult when I say that. These prisons were built in the middle of farmland, and most of these guys were farmers. That's not knocking them, man, but that's what they did before the prison was built. And then all of a sudden, it employed 600 men in the community, and now you're giving them a badge and a gun and power, and telling them you're in charge of this minority right here. A minority that doesn't even live in their communities. So what's going to be the outcome of that, right? It's not going to be a good outcome. I always said that the African-American guy had it so much rougher in prison than a white guy had it. It's true. And I don't care how that sounds, man. I lived there for 17 years. I know. You know what I mean? Where a correctional officer would come up to me and say, "Yo, what job you want?" And not bother you as much, where they wouldn't really do that with a black guy. You know what I mean? And it was because you were like one of them. They considered you like one of them. You follow what I'm saying? And so it was a lot harder on those guys. And then here we go. There's two sides to every story, right? There's two sides to every story. A lot of the men in prison don't carry themselves correctly, right? And now we're not talking about the Robert Brooks case. We're just talking about prison in general. A lot of the men in there don't carry themselves correctly, right? And so hence the reason that many of these officers are fed up and tired. They really do have a hard job. I'm not talking about the ones that beat people now unnecessarily. I'm talking about correctional officers that are getting shit thrown on them, correctional officers that are getting piss thrown on them, correctional officers that are dealing with guys that run around all day, cutting each other with scalpels, stabbing each other with razors, robbing each other, breaking all the rules, causing havoc in the prison. I would say that 70% of the prisoners are like that, right? So that's a very rough job for a correctional officer, right? So the guys make it worse on themselves. I have to admit that they make it. We're not talking about Robert Brooks now. I'm just talking about prison, right? The guys make it a lot harder on themselves. I was a guy, I'm not patting myself on the back, that knew how to do time. I knew how to do time. When I went into prison, I knew that it was their house, right? And I was just a prisoner. And so I knew how to yes a correctional officer to death. Yo, Fish, go clean the bathroom. No problem, you got it. Right? Where these other kids didn't do stuff like that. They'd be like, yo, that's not my job. Fuck that. I'm not doing that. And they made their lives hard for them. Right? And I used to try and preach to these young kids, and especially preach to the young black kids in there. I used to tell them, yo, listen, this ain't your house, dude. This is their house and they're in control. Our job is to do our time and get out of here. Right? So just do your time and get out of here. But a lot of them didn't do that. They wanted to act like gangsters. They wanted to act like tough guys. They wanted to run around and still getting high. You know what I mean? And so those guys up there ain't having that, man. They're not having that, you know? It's like a psychology game in there, you know? When you go in there as a prisoner, just, you know, you got to just do your time like a man and mind your P's and Q's, and you can get through it no matter what race you are. But unfortunately, a lot of guys go in there and they bring the street in there with them, you know, and so the officers are under pressure. This is why they're striking right now, and they want the HALT Act brought back, which is solitary confinement, because solitary confinement. I did a video on my channel about solitary confinement. It was torture for me. I was ready to commit suicide in solitary confinement. It was the worst experience I had in my life. And with that said, you need solitary confinement in a prison. You cannot allow prisoners to run around and stab and cut and fight and not be able to segregate them from the population, because you'll have chaos. That's just a fact, right? And so these officers are saying, we have chaos in here because you're not allowing us to do their job. You have to allow them to do their job. That doesn't mean beat someone to death, but still allow them to do their job. So there's two sides, brother. There's two sides to every story, you know? Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add to the people? Is there anything else you want to say?
I would just say, thank you for following the case again. I really appreciate you following the case. I would say there's only a handful of us doing it. You know, you look, there's maybe 4 or 5 guys that are posting video on Robert Brooks. And I honestly think that the only reason the charges were brought against these officers is because of the pressure of the people, the pressure of the Robert Brooks family, the pressure of people on the internet, the pressure of people on YouTube, right? We're putting because it took 2 months for them to do anything. I don't think they were preparing their case for 2 months. I think they were trying to sweep it under the rug, right? But people didn't allow them to sweep it under the rug. And so I don't think they're looking, I think it was the pressure that made them bring charges. I don't think they're looking for justice, right? I really don't. The district attorney got up there, Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick got a terrible record. When you look at Fitzpatrick, I can name cases where he's very pro-law, and he's very pro-law enforcement, right? He's one of those upstate guys. I'll end with just to give you 2 examples of Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick retired from being a district attorney, right, for 24 hours so he can sign papers, get his pension, and then the next morning became a district attorney again, right? And so what they call double dipping, you know what I mean? So he also had a case where someone in his office killed a man driving under the influence, killed a teenager driving under the influence. He walked scot-free with probation. That guy, he killed a teenager driving drunk. He walked away with probation. There was a case 6 months ago where one of the district attorneys in his office refused to pull over for a police officer, made the police officer follow her all the way home. She pulled into a garage. When she got out, she started berating the officer, yelling at the officer, "I'm the district attorney." He didn't do anything to her. He says, "I'm sure she learned her lesson." Anyone else would have been in jail in handcuffs right away. So I don't like his track record. You know what I mean? But hopefully the spotlight is on him now and he's forced to do anything. I don't know. We'll see, man. We'll see. You know, when they gave 100, I'll end with this for sure. When they stated the $100,000 bail today, The district attorney usually speaks up right away and says, Your Honor, I request a higher bail. $100,000 isn't enough. This was a murder that was caught on videotape. I'm suggesting that we give them a $300,000. He didn't say a word.
He did
He
not
didn't say a word.
He
They
did not
gave
say
a low
word.
bail, and he sat there with his mouth shut and didn't say anything. Right? If he wanted them in jail, he would have opened his mouth and spoke about that right there with the bail. But he also has to act like a district attorney. So he gives a beautiful press conference afterwards. We're going to seek justice. We're going to do this. He has to say that. We'll see. We'll see how good he is. Time will tell. That's it. Time will tell. Yeah.
So, Fish, where can people find you if they want to check out your channel?
Yeah, they just on. Thank you very much. They can just go to Conservative Felon. I'm on YouTube as Conservative Felon, and I have my videos up there. Mostly, what I try and do is I usually don't follow the news like this, like you do. And I just the Robert Brooks case struck me. You know what I mean? So I felt like covering it. My channel's really about trying to persuade the youth from becoming incarcerated. You know, trying to help people make proper choices and decisions, explaining my prison experience. I usually don't cover the current events, you know, but with a case like Robert Brooks, it was exceptional. I really felt the need to do it. But they can go to Conservative Felon, check out my videos. And thank you for that. I appreciate that. You know.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I will link your information. And thank you so much. God bless you. Take care.
Absolutely, man. Thank you again. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. So there you have it, Conservative Felon making it an appearance. Thank you so much for that. Really, really, really appreciate that. One thing I want to do next is I want to actually show the Fitzpatrick press statement. I'm sorry, the Fitzpatrick press conference that he made, and play his portion of the press conference in which he spoke for close to 4 minutes. There are a bunch of things in there that I have a major problem with that I'll share with you. I don't think the mainstream media is going to be picking this up and making these statements the way I'm actually about to. But before I do that, let's jump to some comments here. Luke's wife said, yes, paid it first, and the judge removed him and said he would have to testify. And then a public defender who had to refuse himself after receiving my husband's file because he got a job with the DAs. I think you were talking about the case with your husband, Caterpillar Girl, Farina. So I guess some of these comments are behind because I jumped to a couple of different things. BJ Webb says, I'm mad about charges and how it went also. Also, the strikes right now, so scary for my loved one in there. No guards and dorms. Say prayers, and if you will try off sub, justice for Robert Brooks. Yeah, so one thing that I am hearing is that you have incarcerated individuals that are having issues with visits. You have them not getting medications. You have some potential life-threatening circumstances happening that's not really being reported. All you're hearing about is these corrections officers and they're protesting and outside of these facilities. Caterpillar Girl says, take away the union's power by taking money. Like we know NYSCOBA is a very powerful union. They have a tremendous amount of influence in the various upstate New York counties, tremendous amount of influence. Thief Dela says, it's always a slap in the face. When Black people face injustices, they can be killed on camera. And some way, somehow, the killers always walk. I mean, what happened today was a travesty of justice. Very low bail. It should not have happened that way. Vicky says, no money, no ability. Their faces are everywhere. Their names are all over the internet. But I have a feeling somebody's going to employ them. They will get work somehow doing something. Luke's wife, office next PD was winning motions. Judge removed him, said he might have to testify. Assigned the next DA who did nothing. By the way, he had a lawsuit against the city of Albany for falsely accusing him of murder. BJ Webb says, I pray that they get charged. Caterpillar Girl says, you were right, BJ. Luke's wife, and putting him through a trial which ended in a hung jury. I was an alternate prior to the second trial. The actual murders were arrested and he was released. Vicky says, I need a drink. I'm having one right now. So I want to go ahead and jump to the press conference right now. I'm going to pull up that video for us to take a look at. Okay. Okay, so just to pull this up, for those of you who don't know, after the indictments came down, what we're about to look at is Fitzpatrick addressing everyone. Conservative felon just mentioned that William Fitzpatrick wanted his moment. He addressed the public in terms of the comments that he made. You will see it's about 3.5 minutes, close to 4 minutes. I will be pausing it a few times to give you my feedback. So here we go.
Feel that in addition to the tape beating, which you probably have already seen, Robert was beaten on 2 prior occasions between 9/07 and the time of his death, within minutes of his arrival at Marcy. Our investigation further revealed that there was no provocation by Robert Brooks that would have precipitated any physical response whatsoever, never mind the physical response that was inflicted upon him.
So just a quick note, William Fitzpatrick said something that we may have suspected, but we did not know. He says that prior to the beating that we saw on camera, there were 2 beatings prior to the one that we saw on camera. So he was beat twice. He was beat in the Sally Port, and then there was another area where he was beaten. So that's something that is new for us. Many of us suspected that occurred. But anyway, we'll go back to this.
I think any sentient human being looking at the tapes naturally comes to the conclusion that he must have said something. He must have spit at the officers. He must have resisted in some way. And the fact of the matter is, he did absolutely nothing.
So, and again, if you disagree with me, maybe I'm being overly sensitive. I have a big problem with that statement that he made. He said any sentient human being who saw the video would have thought that he did something, that he may have spit at them, he may have provoked them. I have a big problem with that statement because I do not see it that way. When I saw the video, I did not think maybe he did something to provoke it. So it seems as though, Mr. Fitzpatrick, that we live in 2 different realities. We live in 2 different realities. The reality where people get beaten by corrections officers, and the other reality that you may live in, that it may have been justified in some way. So I really had a problem with that statement that he made any sentient human being would have thought, because I did not think that. When I saw him on camera, I did not think maybe he did something horrible to those corrections officers. But again, maybe I'm being overly sensitive. If I am, feel free to let me know.
The first beating took place in what is referred to as the arsenal section of Marcy. It's the first enclosed structure that Robert entered after disembarking the bus from Mohawk. The second beating took place outside as Robert was being escorted to the infirmary, standard procedure when an inmate arrives at Marcy. And the third and final and fatal beating took place in the emergency room of the infirmary, which I said many of you have seen on tape. Indicted for murder in the second degree under a theory that they acted with depraved indifference to human life and caused Robert's death are former Marcy Corrections officers Anthony Farina, Nicholas Anzalone, David Kingsley, Christopher Walworth, and Matthew Gallagher. They face as a potential punishment life in prison. Indicted for manslaughter in the second degree for recklessly causing Robert's death by essentially doing nothing are Michael Mashaw, Michael Fisher, and David Walters. They are facing a potential 15 years in state prison. And finally, indicted for tampering with evidence is Nicholas Gentile, a Class C felony punishable by 4 years in state prison. One additional defendant has been indicted for murder in the second degree, and he was unavailable to surrender himself. We do not believe he's a flight risk.
And I actually just had to stop it there. This is something that came up earlier in the conversation. He said there was one gentleman who's been indicted who was unable to surrender, and he says we don't deem him to be a flight risk. So I can just tell you, if it was you or I would have a SWAT team at my door right now, breaking down my door to bring me to court. So saying that this gentleman was unavailable to come in is just, for me, that's a big slap in the face, because we would not be afforded those luxuries that these correctional officers were afforded in this case. So that's another slap in the face, because this is not how justice should be administered.
Will be arraigned in the very, very near future. 3 former Marcy Correction officers have reached plea agreements with the special prosecutor. I will not reveal their names nor their plea agreements until such time as they appear in court and enter their guilty pleas.
Okay. So we know that there are 3 plea agreements. We don't know the specifics of the plea agreements. One thing I will tell you, spoiler alert, that you will not be happy with these plea agreements. Don't be surprised if these individuals who will plead guilty do not get any prison time and possibly have their records expunged. I would not be surprised. I don't think that these individuals are going to face any prison time whatsoever under these plea agreements. Mind you, their testimony might be helpful. I agree with that, but don't be surprised. Don't expect a whole lot from these plea agreements.
By Robert Brooks that would have precipitated any physical response whatsoever, never mind the physical response that was inflicted upon him. I think any sentient human being looking at the tapes.
I'm sorry, this jumped back a little bit. Let me see if I can bring it back to the spot where it was at.
Nicholas and David Walters. They are facing a potential 15 years in state prison. And finally, indicted for tampering with evidence is Nicholas Gentile, a Class C felony punishable by 4 years in state prison. One additional defendant has been indicted for murder in the second degree, and he was unavailable to surrender himself. We do not believe he's a flight risk. He will be arraigned in the very, very near future. 3 former Marcy Correction officers have reached plea agreements with the special prosecutor. I will not reveal their names nor their plea agreements until such time as they appear in court and enter their guilty pleas. At least 2 current or former Marcy employees and at least 1 current or former Mohawk employee are still under investigation, and the grand jury is still sitting and still able.
Okay. I wanted to stop it for a second because he said something that's very important in terms of the future. He stated there are 3 individuals who are still under investigation who will face indictments. 2 of them are Marcy Correctional, he said either former or current officers, and then he mentioned 1 correctional officer from Mohawk, current or former correctional officer from Mohawk facility. So just keep that in mind for the future, for next week, if we see other indictments coming down.
Hear evidence. I would advise them to seriously consider cooperating with the special prosecutor. That, of course, is their choice. I want to thank very much the governor of the state of New York, Kathy Hochul, for her assistance, both logistically
Okay. I I had to stop it there because what happens next is the pats on the back, the old attaboys, and thanking everyone, and thanking Governor Hochul, and thanking Christopher Monticello, and all these thanks to all these people, when in actually no one should be effing thanked for what occurred. Um, there's no thanks for what happened today. What happened today was a travesty of justice. It should not have occurred. So I'm not going to give this the airtime for him to play the thanks. One thing he did do. He did speak about the Robert Brooks family and his interactions with them. But outside of that, him thanking all of these other officials, I really don't have an interest in playing his shout outs, so to speak. I'm going to jump to some comments here. Let's go to we had conservative felon said their bail should have been 500,000, now 100,000. Absolutely, 1,000%. The bail is a ridiculous amount for a murder two charge. Doesn't seem right. BJ Webbs, I hope the video gets shown to the jury. It's evidence. We agree 1,000%. I will keep you posted on that. Conservative felon stated, "I lived in prison with these uh, I lived in prison with these animals for 17 years. I know how many of them operate." So, conservative felon came on. He gave his testimony, spoke about dealing with correctional officers, and he said not all of them are bad. You had some good ones, some decent ones. I've watched a ton of his videos. He makes reference to sitting down and breaking bread with a CO that he was under the supervision of. So, I do know there are some good people, but unfortunately, when there's a culture where the bad people are allowed to thrive, that spoils everything. Spoils everything. By the way, we have the link for anyone who wants to come up and chit chat with me. By all means, if anyone disagrees with anything you've seen here, I will welcome you on. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. I want to hear from you. Obviously, I've been on for a little over 2 hours. I've done most of the talking, but I would love to hear from you and hear what you have to say. Kevin said the tragic death of Robert Brooks and the deafening silence of justice. I agree. Kevin said conservative felon, awesome seeing you. Yes, it's really amazing seeing him here. Again, Fish, thank you for blessing me with your presence. I really do appreciate that. Vicky says, "Yo, Fish," in a Long Island accent, maybe. I'm not sure if Vicky's from Long Island, but I just imagine a Long Island accent saying, "Yo, Fish." Okay. I promise I won't do that again. Let's jump to Kevin again. Thank you for saying that. Your sharing helped me humanize the COs. So Kevin is making a reference to Fish, his comments about COs. Caterpillar Girl, absolutely conservative felon. I live near Utica. I lived it. DV with cop, and he got away with putting gun to my daughter's head. The sheriff went to school with our abuser. Horrible. Please bathing, and they will talk. Okay, I'm not sure I follow what that means, but it's late for me. I'm slow tonight. Okay. Uh, Caterpillar Girl says, please, barging, sorry. Caterpillar Girl cleans that up and says, sorry, plea bargain. Yeah. We have 3 plea bargains that will come out possibly next week. We will see what happens with that. And says, really, they are all a threat to themselves and the public. They should be locked up. IMO. I'm not sure what IMO means. If somebody can type that in the chat. Sometimes I'm not the best with the lingo, so to speak. Luke's wife, Dad Farina get to keep his retirement since he resigned and was not terminated. That's really a good question. Are these officers going to be able to keep their retirement, keep their pensions? We don't know. Farina may have done the smart thing from his end and retired before he was terminated. And as of now, I don't believe these officers are terminated. I think they're still they're suspended, but they haven't officially lost their jobs. And we know that with the NYSCOBA collective bargaining agreement, it is virtually impossible to terminate corrections officers. Caterpillar Girl, good question, Luke's wife. We have Raquel. What the hell? This is an injustice. No murder is no longer punishable in New York State. I'm disgusted. Agree with you 1,000%. We have Anne. So again, still get pensions, free attorneys out on bail, could flee. Excellent point. So what we saw in some cases, some of these corrections officers did not have passports. And during the Duty Ron live stream today, there was talk about if you have a New York State ID, I believe that's the most updated one that you're allowed to travel with it. So it's possible that these officers could flee to Canada. I'm not sure if they could travel internationally without a passport, but if somebody wants to chime in on the chat, let me know. Kevin says, wow, that's insightful, CF. Thank you. Sounds like a tightrope walk. BJ Webb says, they are in dorms alone, no guards all day today. I don't know about tonight yet. I hope not. So BJ Webbs, it seems like you're talking about the strike. You're having inmates and guards alone all day. I can't imagine what could potentially happen. BJ Webb says, I believe it's the pressure also. Kevin Harrison says double dipping. Kevin is probably making reference to Fisher's statement about William Fitzpatrick. I actually did a video in reference to William Fitzpatrick several weeks ago, in which I state he won't file charges against these corrections officers. And I gave some examples similar to what Fish said, the conservative felon, about his history defending police officers, and also his situation with double dipping, basically quitting, signing up for the pension, and then taking his job as DA. So the corruption is there. The corruption is there. So we have another comment from Caterpillar Girl. I saw that on the news. She's a clown. I believe Caterpillar Girl, you're referring to the public defender, if I'm not mistaken, who was laughing. BJ Webbs, it was horrible, and if no charges, that will be a huge injustice. Hopefully not in the care of supervision anyone, anywhere of anyone ever. We have a question from Caterpillar Girl. Didn't one from Mohawk get arrested too? My understanding, Caterpillar Girl, is the answer is no as of now. What you did hear William Fitzpatrick state was that there is an individual who is still under investigation pending indictment, either a current or former Mohawk correctional officer. BJ Webbs, I didn't think that he did anything at all. Maybe stuck up for himself or don't do this. I've been spot on, punch, scratch, and mess on me during nursing for 20 years. We can't be abusive, shameful. James Richards says, thank you, God, for exposing this brutality, and may you shine your light of justice to begin to put a stop to these crimes. I truly hope, James, that this does stop these crimes, but from what we saw today, I'm not very confident that these crimes will stop. If you would have told me back in November of 2024 that all these injustices were happening and there were no consequences from for it, I would not have believed you. I would have thought you were just telling tales, you were just telling stories, but it's true. These officers commit crimes and murder and they get away with it. John A says, "Yo, coming from Michigan, why did they even get bail? The other guy walked on PR." So I'm not sure, John, if you're talking about when you say the other guy walked on PR, it might have been Nicholas Gentile, who was released on his own recognizance. Uh, he was charged with tampering with evidence. Okay, we got more comments. Caterpillar Girl says, "It's my phone." So maybe she's making reference to the writing. We have Wesley Robinson, strong island love to fish, who is from Long Beach, from Long Island. Salute to every you are doing, brothers, keeping us abreast. So thank you, Wesley, for that. Uh, Fish's Fish's channel is amazing. I really love his content, and there's one thing that you'll notice when somebody's in their element and they're a man or they're a woman that they found their mission, you see the passion in their work. And Fish is a gentleman who is gifted, who has a story. He tells his story, and his goal is to help others avoid what he went through. So we definitely have to support him 1,000%. Oh, so Vicky helps me out and says, IMO means in my opinion. Bridget says, I've been spreading the word about Robert Brooks everywhere I go and try to get them to spread the word about these murderers and to support Robert Brooks and his family. Thank you for that. I think we all need to spread that word and let people know what's happening. Conservative felon writes, it's an advanced driver's license that allows you into Canada and Mexico, but they won't run. So I'm just curious. So how many people in the chat think these people are going to run, are going to flee from prosecution? I honestly think that's not going to happen. I think they're going to stay put. They're free. And also, one thing in Duty Run's podcast, today's live stream, he mentioned that there are no ankle monitors placed on these gentlemen's feet. They're able to roam free, travel, go to different places. So just to add more insult to injury. Bridget, and I would love to be able to purchase some T-shirts and buttons to help support Robert Brooks and his family. I don't know where you would do that. I'm not sure, but if someone has any information, they can post that in the chat. Luke's wife, you can get an enhanced ID in New York and travel to Mexico and Canada by land. Sandra G says, I think it's still not enough. I'm not sure, Sandra, if you're referring to the bail situation with these officers and staff, but feel free to add that in. Luke's wife says, I think the one missing is on vacation. This week is winter break in New York. So, okay. I'm gonna put the invitation for anyone who wants to come back on one more time. We've been on the stream for 2 hours and 18 minutes. So if anybody wants to come on and chit chat with me and give me your opinion, tell me what you think. I'll give maybe a couple minutes for anyone who wants to come on to come on. The link is in the description. So I'm very curious to know what happens on Monday. On Monday, we should have more indictments. I'm curious to see who gets indicted and what those charges are. We do know several corrections officers or nursing staff have agreed to cooperate, and there will be plea bargains. And again, hopefully we will see these plea bargains within the next couple of weeks. I have a very strong opinion that we're not going to be very happy with these plea bargains. I don't think there will be any jail time with these plea bargains. And, maybe that's okay. Maybe that's not. I don't know. But we do know the major players in this case those individuals who put hands on Mr. Brooks, they faced either murder in the second degree or manslaughter in the second degree. I think what was also interesting was that there was a gang assault charge given to Matthew Gallagher. I thought that was interesting. So, okay. So as of now, we don't have anyone coming on who wants to come on. So I think I'm gonna begin to close this and let you know, excuse me, that I'm gonna continue to cover this regardless of what my situation is, my status. I'm gonna be covering this, creating videos about this and updating the general public. I'm going to ask each and every one of you to share the story of Robert Brooks. Share these videos. Excuse me. It doesn't have to be my videos. I don't want to be selfish because there are people that have great content out there. You have Conservative Felon, you have Duty Ron. You also have another gentleman named Introvert Rockstar who's done some videos on duty on Robert Brooks as well. It's important to spread the word and to encourage those individuals that have major audiences to cover this, to begin talking about this, because this is not getting the coverage that it needs to get. It's not. So this is really up to us. It's up to you and I to really spread the word and let people know what's happening. So with that being said, I don't have anyone else coming on. It's been close to 2.5 hours. I thank you for being on. If you've been on from minute one to now, thank you. Even if you came on for a few minutes, I appreciate it. And I will end it this way, the same way I end my videos. If you like the video, I'm sorry, if you do like the video, share the video, and if you think that I've earned it, please subscribe to my channel. I'm a small channel. At the moment, it's under 500. I'm doing this. It's really not about being a YouTube phenomenon. I started out doing videos on human resources. That's my background. I have a background in HR for 25 years. And the moment this came up with Robert Brooks, my life has changed. I have not been the same. And I felt the need to produce content on this. So I thank you for being here. I thank you for spending your time with me. You could be anywhere. You chose to be here for however long you did. I thank you. Take care. God bless. And I will see you. If you're here Sunday night, come join me Sunday night. Take care. Bye bye.